Hello Pisces, we're here with your reading, what you need to know for October. The first card that we have out is Four of Swords and the Star. Four of Swords puts a focus on you taking care of yourself. There can be more of a need for quiet. There can be more of a need for stillness, for recharging, for self-care. There can also be healing that's happening too. That can be a theme with Four of Swords and the Star. I definitely don't get a feeling of rushing. Or if you are feeling like there's a rushing feeling in the beginning, it can be a sign to sort of do the opposite of that. Like there's a slowing, there is a calming, there is a centering that I'm seeing here within the energy. And a focusing on you and a focusing on your path with the Star. So you can feel like you sort of come center focus into your story. There is stuff about your path. Let me think about, how do we say this? The best way that this can be communicated is that if there were certain things that you felt like this is supposed to be part of my path, or I'm supposed to be doing this, or I'm supposed to be doing that, it looks like there's something happening, like there's a shift that's happening, and it's associated with you growing spiritually, where there is a deeper understanding of your path, like a deeper unfolding of your path. But what this also means too is that if there were dreams that you were holding on to, or expectations that you'd been holding on to, that you were like, I thought this was my path, or I thought that this stuff was important, or this was what I was supposed to be doing, it can be a time where there is actually a letting go so that you can naturally move into alignment. So this means that you can be seeing where there had been something false that you had been holding on to, or there had been a story that you'd been telling yourself, that now you get to this moment and standing where you are, you realize that there's something else going on, or that you're supposed to be going in a different direction. It feels like one of those times where you're driving and you've been the one having the wheel, and your guides are like, you need to release the wheel, and if you do that, we will take the wheel here and steer you to where you need to go. But this is a process of trust. And you get the choice too with the Star and the Hanged Man. You can be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I know where I'm going, and you can steer. Or if you get to that place with your guides and there's a willingness to trust, they will put you where you need to be. That doesn't mean that you're off track. It feels more so like there's stuff that's going to come through spiritually for you as you are growing, as you are aligning. And this definitely feels like something that you may not have known before, something that you may not have been aware of consciously before, that has to do with your path, that's actually coming into focus now, and it being important. And in order for you to really get the sense of this, to feel this, to tune into it, it looks like quiet is needed. There is a stillness that's needed in order for you to really tune into this, because it feels like it's time to see something, to know something, and it has to do with your path. So I'm seeing it be important for that reason. This is one of those big times where, like, why you're here and what you're doing, that comes into center focus, only to like fade out once again once you're sort of moving along. This looks like there's a big focus on receptivity here more than anything, because this isn't something that you're going to be like, I'm going to think this think the solution. This is more so like a tuning in and a feeling in and recognizing what you're receiving here. And realizations that will come. Very important realizations that will come. It's like stuff that it's time for you to know these things now. But starting with Four of Swords shows that if you're in a place where your mind is really chaotic and you are very ungrounded and you're zooming around, you are not going to be able to receive what you need to receive. So that's why it's important that there's a stillness here so you can be receptive. Because if you're too much in your masculine energy, which is you taking action and doing a bunch of things and initiating a bunch of stuff, there's that lack of stillness and ability to receive what is being sent to you. Because it's your plan and your path and your guides communicating with you through the waves, the radio waves, and you needing to be tuned to the correct station. But if you're running all around, it feels like the only way you can access this station is when you are stilled and tuned into it, and that's how you will get a clear signal. So there won't be static on the line, so you'll really hear what you need to hear, so you'll really feel what you need to feel, so you will really receive and become aware of what you're meant to know now. I do feel like this is really important information for you, relevant to your path that's being passed on to you now, because it's time for this to happen. There will also be a sense of direction found within this and revelation. It can even feel like things that were hidden from you before, things that were not active yet, are coming online and they're going to be active now. So you're going to be doing this. This is one part of the month, not meaning like first half of the month this is what you're going to be doing. It feels like this is going to be balanced with another area of your life. So this feels more like the purpose, tuning in, venture energy that's connected with your path, connected with your dharma. And then on the other side, I'm seeing an active, curious energy where that can be more about the learning, asking questions, researching, important conversations that are being had, even figuring out what to do with the information that you receive. There's going to be learning too, that's part of this as well. This does feel like a really spiritual activation that's happening. So that's going on. Receptivity, becoming still, tuning in, listening. There can also be surrendering that's happening too. And there will be an evaluation of what's coming through. That's happening. Then the other thing that's happening, I'm seeing Page of Swords, Three of Swords, Judgment. What this means is that there can be some looking into, when we have the Three of Swords here, this can be unreleased pain, unintegrated pain, trauma, stuff that's been being held onto, wounding of any sort. Having Judgment next to it, this can be stuff that is very sensitive, stuff that you feel very, very sensitive about, stuff where you feel like these are the deepest cuts that you've experienced. But there's something about going in there because there is going to be liberation from that if you will go along with this process. This ultimately looks like there are limitations and wounding that you are going to be perceptive limitations. that you are going to be liberated from, but there's going to have to be a recognition of stuff first. There's going to be a curiosity about things, and I almost feel like what this is that you're receiving makes you curious enough to be willing to go into some very sensitive experiences of yours to pull what you need to pull from those experiences. So it feels like whatever pain, whatever wounding, whatever cuts that you have left over, Page of Swords is you sort of diving into there. And Page of Swords, Three of Swords, and Judgment, this is going to be a deep psychological uncovering that's happening. So rather than just something being purposeless, wounding, there's stuff that you are going to gain that will be of deep benefit to you. Peeling back the layers of the onion. The Hierophant on the bottom of the deck, I wonder if there's still some bitterness that's being held on to. This feels like it's about stuff that has happened, and it can be ways that you've sort of formed yourself to protect yourself, to keep yourself safe, like ways that you've become rigid. Even stuff with family can have to do with this too. Be connected with this. The word ongoing is coming through. I do get the feeling intuitively like this is if you go through things and you feel like you're crossed in a way that is really offensive to you, and you feel like you were mistreated, disrespected, things of that nature, the way that this looks like to me is that there can be like a little bit of a, and it doesn't have to be on a severe scale, or maybe it is, no judgment regardless. There can be a little bit of a tyranny energy here a little bit with the Hierophant, where because of what you've gone through, there can be this like things, feeling like things need to be catered to you or need to be pleasing to you, while there's this like really holding on to old stuff that at this point in time you can feel like it limits you, and you don't want to be necessarily limited by these things anymore. Because this feels like the Hierophant, the way that I'm seeing it in this setting, feels like in response to what I went through, when I felt like there was some type of injustice or like disrespect or stuff that shouldn't have been happening with my ideas of the way that things are supposed to be. There can almost be this like little bit of a ruthless energy that you find you tap into, but it creates an obstinance, like where there's not a congruence and flow with the way that things unfold, and it can actually end up hindering you, even though this can be a very righteous energy. So you can definitely rationalize being in this energy. Simultaneously, you can feel like it keeps you stuck, and you may not want that anymore. So this can be a time when you realize this, and it doesn't have to even be anything outlandish. This can be in small ways that still surface. Because I almost get this feeling of, metaphorically speaking, feeling like there needs to be a bowing down a bit when you have these ideas of how stuff is supposed to be, or how even life or other people are supposed to approach you at times, or like, I'm not like bending for this. It can be a very uncompromising energy, but from a place of there being damage involved, not because that's where you stand when you're liberated from the Three of Swords, but more so like a psychological response that has stiffened you in ways that you don't need to be stiffened, in ways that you're actually naturally pliable. Having Judgment there, if you're not willing to look at it, it's not going to be in your face. Judgment is only when you're willing to go in there and look around. Because Judgment is connected with Pluto, I'm not seeing anything in the reading right now where it would be like in your face, you have to look at it. This is a choice that you get to make. I mean, it can definitely be something that's hard to look at. Can be two triggers, things that trigger you to become rigid, unforgiving, even stubborn, things of that nature. Where life is like, okay, we're gonna go down this way, and you're digging your heels in, like, no, that's not the way that I'm gonna be going, and then it ends up doing a disservice to you. Feeling like things aren't happening the way that they're supposed to. So there can even be like a bit of a mistrust there. And there can be too a realization of the things that you're giving authority to within your life. We also have Hermit and we have the Magician. Having these two energies next to each other, this means that there's going to be a lot of thinking before you speak, a lot of hearing something, and rather than reacting to it immediately, there's going to be a letting it sink in and tuning into that. And what this means too is that if we had the Magician without the Hermit, this can be like, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to do something, I have this vision, I want to see it happen. Having Hermit before means that you are thinking things through all the way before you start the drive. Before you even get behind the wheel, like you have a plan. And the Magician is going to be like what you're hoping to do and see and come to fruition. Hermit is going to be that finding answers. And this can even be like, why do I think that I want that? Why is this something that I'm focused on manifesting? There can be a, why is that my intention even? Analyzing your intention, where those things are coming from. You can even put something on hold too while there are these realizations that you're coming to. I'm seeing a lot about getting yourself into a centered place, a grounded place mentally, so that you can really tune in. And it comes back to this theme of, rather than running all around and doing a bunch of things and everything feels really chaotic and stuff is moving really quickly and you feel like you can't catch your breath, this is like a relax, let me tune in, let me really hear what my soul is speaking to me. Let me see what I wasn't seeing. Let me see what this story that I've been telling myself that may be changing a bit now. You're going to be seeing what you weren't seeing before. I want to clarify and see if this is like anything specific. I feel like it has to do with what you want and your path. What you want, what you think you want, and your path. And what's actually part of your path. Because these can be these lofty dreams and ideals that you have, which there's nothing wrong with, but it can be stuff that when you think about it, it's actually out of touch at times. I'm not saying all of your ideas and stuff are. This can just be some things. And there can also be stuff that you weren't thinking was important or weren't thinking is part of your path, and then you find out that it actually is. It feels just like anything that's a misconception is becoming highlighted. Anything where you didn't have the information you needed, the information is surfacing. Anything that you needed a different perspective on, about, anywhere where you haven't been taking action, stuff that you may not have been doing too. Yeah, this actually feels like stuff that you may have been holding yourself back from. I want to clarify one more time just to see what else this Hanged Man is connected with. I'm getting this again, stuff that has to do with your path. I get the feeling almost like there's something that you're meant to be doing, or there's somewhere where you're meant to be, and right now that is becoming apparent. Part of this is about your security, your comfort. It can be material stuff that's connected with this too. More so your ideals than anything. I do definitely get that there can be some things that you have going on, or maybe one thing that you're giving a lot of importance to, and then as there's this checking in happening, you're going to realize that if there are things that you're giving importance to that are out of touch, like things that you're saying that thing is really important to me, and then you go and secure that thing or achieve that thing, and you look around and you're like, this doesn't feel how I thought it was going to feel. Feels like this is saving you from that happening. And to make sure, it comes back to that scenario I was seeing where it's like you're driving and there's no issue with you driving, but your guides are like, hand over the wheel, let go of the wheel so we can put you where you need to be, and you can like stubbornly be like, no, get away from me, and still drive where you were driving. But then it feels like you may get somewhere and be like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, like I was under a different impression. And that place that you were trying to get to, or that thing that you were trying to achieve, you would have gotten there if you would have just let your guides take the wheel. And this can mean like letting the universe take the wheel. It can be about going with the flow of something that you may want to fight against. And you can feel like, I'm doing this and it just has to be difficult for me because struggle is my middle name. You can just feel like that's the way that things have to be, but they really don't. You're just fighting against the flow of things. Hermit and Magician is like really having thought beforehand, before you go and do something or say like, this is what I'm trying to make happen, or this is what I'm going to be giving my energy to. You really be aware of what that is going to cultivate within your life to make sure that that's what you want for real. And make sure that you're seeing everything to save you from doing something and thinking it's important, and then you do the thing and you get the result and you're like, it doesn't matter to you because it was out of touch. I'm seeing Neptune kind of be the culprit here about that. So this can be stuff that it's difficult to peel back the layers of this, yet necessary. And I wonder too, with Page of Swords, Three of Swords, and Judgment, if there's some type of wounding that's driving you, but there can be a lack of awareness before about that's how it was impacting you. Not that you weren't aware of the wounding, but maybe not so aware that it had been impacting another area of your life unconsciously. To make you go towards something that maybe you wouldn't otherwise, or stay away from something that maybe is actually part of your path. You figure it out. Having Hanged Man underneath, I'm seeing Six of Wands, you figure something really important out. In the stillness. I feel like this is a really huge feat that you accomplish here. Looking into something and finding clarity, because out of all of the cards, the Hanged Man is the most confusing card. It's the most difficult card to gain clarity. In essence, it is a very nebulous energy. And so having Six of Wands underneath it shows that whatever this was that you needed to see, whatever this is that you need to understand, you actually end up doing exactly that. You accomplish this. So it doesn't stay unfigured out, you figure it out. And we have Ace of Swords on the bottom of the deck, which feels like just supportive of that and clarifying that you really do what needed to be understood, what needed to be received. That's what ends up happening. So there's nothing that you're not seeing. But when you're standing in that spot where you see what you weren't seeing before, it does allow you to see what had been getting in the way of you seeing the truth before, or seeing what you needed to see before, realizing what you needed to realize, or understanding what you needed to understand. This is something that's going to increase your perception. There's challenging work, but I'm seeing in the second row there's a lot of joy and happiness. We have the Magician, we have Six of Wands. That shows you successfully doing something that feels really important to you. There's a sense of empowerment within that. There's also this, I thought about it and I envisioned that, and then there being an accomplishment that's connected with that. Having the High Priestess there, this is you feeling deeply tuned in and deeply connected. Then we have Ten of Cups, and we also have the Empress. This is like a lot of energy that you're going to enjoy being within. That's a lot of joy, that's a lot of happiness. And having the Empress there too feels like you feel like your best self. This does feel like a tune-up that happens as well. Having Three of Swords and having the Empress, I wonder if whatever was going on, this can mean that with the Empress, this is about what you have to offer, what you have to give, the things that hold importance to you. Empress can also be skills and abilities and stuff that's specific to you. Having Three of Swords above it can be, it's like if we see the Empress as a power that you have, one of many, Three of Swords there can be like that power, something being broken within it, and then the healing of that. So there's something that you're like naturally you're able to do, and because of that Three of Swords being there, it was like not allowing that energy to flow properly, and then it gets worked out, and then you have that thing back again, which is your natural state with the Empress. Overall, there's a lot that's going to be thought about, figured out, releasing that happens, trusting that happens. And also, too, something really important here with the Hanged Man and the Ten of Cups. This means that there may be something or things that you thought, that's what's going to make me happy. And if you stayed doing that, and it can be just with specific things, if you stayed doing that, you would get there and be like, why am I not happy? Or there can be other things where you're looking at it like, that's not going to make me happy. And you end up finding out that certain things that you thought were going to be your Ten of Cups, like your happiness and your joy and you feeling at peace within your life, certain things that you thought were that weren't actually. And can also show too that certain things that you like weren't giving importance to, you realize that they are important. and that you find out what you needed to find out here. This is going to be really, really important because it has to do with how you feel about your life and where you are with things, and like the overall feel of it, the overall connection to it, feeling spiritually connected, feeling emotionally connected, feeling in tune. I do see that it looks like there needed to be a redirection of some sort, but only because you weren't seeing something before, but then you end up seeing what you needed to see. This can be something going on with your Mercury energy, your Mercury or your Venus energy or your Pluto energy, where the Three of Swords is concerned. Something that needed to be addressed so that your energy is functioning properly. And it feels too like it has to do with your mind and your perspective, psychologically speaking, especially because we have Pluto right next to the Three of Swords, which means that there's going to be a psychological transformation that you're undergoing too, and a regeneration as well. What actually makes you happy versus what you're telling yourself makes you happy, but then you're not really feeling that because that's not real and that's not really the thing that you're connected with. So any like illusions that are connected with that. Keep in mind too, this can even be stuff where like you grew up being told that if you had a red car, like you would have no problems in life and you'll be the happiest ever, and then you're like all your life trying to get that red car, and then you get there and you're like, nothing changed. Why don't I feel happy? Like, what's going on with this? So it definitely, there are lots of different ways and reasons why the Hanged Man can come through and sort of blur our vision. And this brings you back into a place of precision intuitively. And with your discernment as well, especially having to discern something internal, and that being the main thrust of this, that this isn't just like on the outside things looking good to you. This is about things feeling good internally, which can sometimes be harder to measure. It can sometimes be more difficult to tune into and connect with. And that's why it can be a bit of a struggle, because you have to be in an advanced place consciously with yourself, which is exactly what ends up happening. You do the thing, so it gets figured out, I'm seeing. And this is going to be a big realization that's made about where your joy is and your happiness, and that feeling of this feels right to me. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.